From getting out-wrestled by Francis Ngannou to being submitted within a couple of minutes by Jon Jones, Ciryl Gane has now lost 2 title fights in a year, so maybe he should have taken the eagle up on his offer. You see, Khabib Nurmagomedov tried helping out the Frenchman last year, particularly with his ground game. After UFC 270 back in January 2022, Khabib wanted Gane to move to Dagestan for a couple of years. He believed that he could help out the heavyweight contender in becoming the champion. The lightweight GOAT wasn't too impressed with what he saw back then.
Jones does a good job of getting height here. He's attacking guillotine. He's not under the chin. And
he pinpointed the gaping hole in Bongaman's technique and wanted to teach him how to wrestle. I'm sure most of you guys already know that these Dagestanis are known for their suffocating ground game. They make very few mistakes when it comes to fighting, and has proven their technique to be one of the most effective ones over the years. Khabib wanted Ciryl to come and live in Dagestan for 1.5 to 2 years and wrestle with some of the heavyweights that he has on his team. He also guaranteed that Gane would be able to secure the UFC title if he took his advice. But of course, the Eagle wasn't trying to throw shade at Cyryl's coaches. He even invited all of them to join him there. Khabib went as far as to offer to arrange everything that Bongaman would need during his stay. I mean, what else could he have done? If a legend such as Nurmagomedov makes an offer like that, it's foolish for anyone to ignore it. I would be booking my flight to Dagestan in a heartbeat. Just look at the fighters they've trained in the past. Islam Makhachev is the UFC lightweight king at the moment. Umar Nurmagomedov is steadily climbing the bantamweight division, and his brother Usman is the Bellator champion and will most likely move to the UFC once Islam decides to hang up his gloves. And I'm not even going to talk about what Khabib himself has achieved. I mean, becoming the most dominant champion in UFC's flagship division is no joke.
Khabib Nurmagomedov! He was feinting it, boom! Slept right in with that leaping uppercut. Tavares never saw it, and from there it was a brutal finish. Elbow after elbow.
The man only ever lost 2 rounds in his entire career. Not 2 matches, 2 rounds. Tell me that isn't crazy. The success these guys have had over the years speaks for itself. But Gane decided to ignore the Eagle's advice and just look at what happened at UFC 285. He got absolutely demolished by Johnny Bones. I'd love to tell you more about how he defeated Gane, but there's not much to talk about there. Honestly, the fight was over so quickly that at first, everyone thought it was a mistake. No one believed that the Frenchman tapped that quickly. The hype and build up to the fight seemed to have all gone to waste, cause John wasn't even tested. And no, the kick to the family jewels doesn't count. Johnny Boy just slipped a punch and took Gane's back, dropped him to the ground, and held him against the fence for a few seconds. Ciryl exposed his neck like a rookie, and Jones just sank a guillotine and made the #1 contender tap. That was the whole fight, over in literally just a couple of minutes. I don't even understand how this was a title fight. Gane may be a good striker and all, but he still had the flaws, and Khabib could have helped him fix them. After all, he was the one who brought them to light when he got beaten up by an injured predator.
It's very important fight for him because if you want to compete in playoff, you have to finish opponent. And that's why it's a little bit hard for about mental, but he's ready, and we have planned second round finishing.
Jones was a wrestler in college, so I can give Gane the benefit of the doubt on that one. But getting taken down by Francis Ngannou, that should have rung the alarm bells right away. You see, the African powerhouse was never known for his ground game. He's known for his knockout power, and the Frenchman seemed to have been doing all right on his feet. He kept the monster at bay with his kicks and was able to score some points in the opening rounds. But it came as a shocker to everyone when Ngannou grabbed hold of Ciryl and slammed him to the canvas in the third, and followed it up by another takedown before the bell.
And this is a visual we haven't seen
here. Whether or not he can hold this knees and getting them into play. Too much of this. Oh my goodness. Francis doing jiu-jitsu. Reverse.
Even in the championship rounds, Francis kept Bongaman grounded. Gane managed a takedown of his own in the final round, but Ngannou demonstrated how better his grappling was as he swept the contender easily and ended the match on top. Ngannou managed all of this with a torn MCL and ACL on his right knee. The doctor even warned him not to fight, but the Predator wanted to remind the people that he was the king of the division, and Khabib saw this coming a year ago, because he knows that in order to survive as a mixed martial artist these days, you need to be a complete fighter. You can't only rely on striking or grappling to win. The fighters must be strong enough on the ground as well as on their feet. Just look at the current champions on the roster, from Zhang Weili to Alexander Volkanovski and all the way up to John Jones himself. Of course, Alex Pereira is kind of an exception, but he too has had some grappling training with Glover Teixeira in his camp. So Gane really needs to get his act together fast. As the former lightweight champ said, he's still pretty young at 32 as a heavyweight.
You know, it's very hard when you have power, when you're best in the world, when you're famous, when you have money, and say to everything like these things no. This is very hard. Like, people maybe never gonna understand me, but I really hope.
So investing a few years in wrestling will only make him a much better fighter overall, because he might be a heavyweight, but he sure moves like a middleweight. According to the UFC boss himself, Bonga Man has some slick moves inside the octagon, and he definitely moves too well for a man his size. Just imagine what he would be able to achieve if he spent a couple of years with these Dagestani beasts. He could easily tear through the division if he were to do that. He's got amazing cardio in a weight class where most fighters are gassed out by the second round. And on top of that, he's an excellent striker. He'd become the whole package if he takes up Khabib on that offer. But let's not take anything away from John Jones here. There's a reason why even most of his haters agree that he's the GOAT. He proved that to the world once again. There's no room left for debate on that. The fact that he moved up a division to take on the #1 contender for the title, and he made it look so easy. I mean, that was just a pure masterclass from the former light heavyweight champ. The whole of the MMA world agrees on the fact that Jones is the best fighter to have ever set foot in that octagon.
I mean, John Jones is an absolute freak, and Ciryl Gane moves like a middleweight, and I mean, that's just one of the million reasons that this fight is so awesome.
Right, you have you've got like 500 pounds of some of the greatest athletes in the world, but these guys should not be able to move the way they move, Dana. It's incredible. It really is incredible.
Even Dana White said that he was a little skeptical when John claimed that he was going to make it look easy. He hadn't fought for 3 years before that, and the UFC boss, being a big believer in ring rust, just didn't believe him.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is the future. He is the present and he is the future. And he might be the greatest talent that we've ever seen in the UFC.
Johnny Bones Jones, extremely athletic, 6-0 in his mixed martial arts career. He has spent just a short time in the MMA game.
After the fight, though, Dana was happy to eat his words as he declared him to be the greatest of all time. Johnny Boy just made Bonga Man look like an amateur. Ciryl was left shell-shocked at what had happened.
Really disappointed. Yeah, you see, I'm really angry about me. By myself, because this is look like I took a lot of time off my sparring, my coaches, everybody around me.
He was staring in disbelief, much like the rest of the world. After the match, though, Bonga Man expressed how disappointed he was with the way things ended for him in the octagon. But now, the time to lament has passed. He must start working on his ground game if he has any ambitions towards that title. And folks, that's why Khabib wanted to train Ciryl Gane in wrestling.